Her father was dying, and she had nothing to save him. No money, no help, but she made a decision that no one in the village expected. Elena lived in a small, quiet village where nothing ever seemed to change. Every morning she woke up before sunrise to help her father. He was the only family she had, and everything she cared about. Life was simple. Not easy, but enough. Until one day, everything fell apart. Her father collapsed in the middle of work. At first, Elena thought it was just exhaustion. He had been working too hard lately. But when he didn't wake up, panic took over. She rushed him to the nearest clinic, her hand shaking the entire way. The doctor examined him in silence. That silence felt heavier than anything she had ever known. Then the words came. He needs immediate treatment. Elena's heart dropped. How much? She asked, almost whispering. The number was far beyond anything she could imagine. It wasn't just expensive. It was impossible. Elena stood there, frozen. She looked at her father lying weak on the bed. For the first time in her life, she didn't know what to do. But one thing was clear. If she did nothing, she would lose him. And that was something she refused to accept, even if it meant facing the entire world alone. The next morning, Elena didn't waste a second. She went from house to house asking for help. At first she believed someone would care. Someone had to. But she was wrong. Some people avoided her before she could even speak. Others listened, only to shake their heads. It's too much, they said. We can't help you. One man didn't even try to hide his tone. You're wasting your time. Just accept it. Elena felt her chest tighten. Accept it? Accept that her father would die? She clenched her hands, trying to hold back her emotions. But the rejection didn't stop. By midday, she had asked nearly everyone in the village, and every answer was the same. No. Some pitied her. Some ignored her. But none of them helped. As the sun began to set, Elena stood alone at the edge of the road. Her hope slowly fading. For a moment, doubt crept into her mind. Maybe they were right. Maybe this was impossible. But then she remembered her father, lying weak, fighting to breathe. Elena took a deep breath. No, she whispered. I'm not giving up. If no one was willing to help her, then she would find another way, no matter how hard it would be. That night, Elena couldn't sleep. The doctor's words kept repeating in her mind. Time was running out, and she still had nothing. By morning, she made her decision. If no one would help her, then she would earn the money herself, no matter what it took. She started with the only thing she could do. Carrying heavy loads at the market, cleaning small shops, doing anything people were willing to pay for. The work was exhausting. Her hands quickly became sore. Her body felt heavier with every hour, but she didn't stop. Every coin mattered. Every second mattered. Still, it wasn't enough. At the end of the day, she counted what she had earned. It was barely anything compared to what she needed. Not even close. Elena stared at the small amount in her hand. For the first time, fear started to grow. What if all of this still wasn't enough? What if she ran out of time? She clenched her fist, refusing to let those thoughts win. There has to be another way, she whispered to herself. Because if she kept going like this, she knew one thing for sure. She wouldn't make it in time. Elena knew she was running out of time. Working all day for small coins would never be enough. Not for what her father needed. That afternoon, while she was struggling to carry a heavy load at the market, something unexpected happened. A man stopped her. He had been watching her for a while. You work hard, he said. Elena stayed silent, unsure what he wanted. Then he made an offer. A job. It paid far more than anything she had ever earned. Enough to make a real difference. Elena's heart raced. This was exactly what she needed. But something felt off. Why me? She asked carefully. The man smiled slightly. Because you're desperate, he replied. Those words hit harder than she expected. Elena hesitated. She didn't know him. She didn't know the job. And deep down, she knew it wouldn't be easy. But then she thought about her father. Lying weak, running out of time. She didn't have the luxury to be careful anymore. Slowly, she nodded. I'll do it. The man's smile widened. Good, he said. Then be ready tonight. Elena watched him walk away, a strange feeling growing in her chest. She had just made a decision, one that could change everything. But she had no idea how dangerous it would be. That night, Elena followed the instructions. The place was far from the village. Dark, quiet. It didn't feel right. When she arrived, the same man was already there, along with a few others. No one smiled. No one spoke much. "You're late," the man said coldly. Elena shook her head. "I came as fast as I could." He didn't respond. Instead, he pointed toward a pile of heavy crates. "Move all of them. No mistakes." Elena stepped closer and froze for a second. The crates were bigger than anything she had carried before. "And there were too many. All of this?" she asked quietly. The man looked at her unimpressed. "You said you'd do anything." Elena swallowed her doubt. She had no choice. She started working. One crate, then another. Each one heavier than the last. Hours passed. Her arms trembled. Her breathing grew uneven. But she kept going. Then suddenly, one crate slipped from her grip. It hit the ground with a loud crash. Everything went silent. Elena's heart stopped. The man slowly turned toward her. His expression had changed. "I said no mistakes," he said. Elena stepped back, fear rising in her chest. In that moment, she realized something. This wasn't just a job, and she might have just made a serious mistake. The sound of the crate hitting the ground echoed in the dark. No one moved. No one spoke. Elena felt her heart pounding in her chest. She knew she had made a mistake. The man walked toward her slowly. Each step felt heavier than the last. "I warned you," he said, his voice low. Elena tried to speak. "I'm sorry." It slipped. "Sorry won't fix anything." His tone was cold, final. For a moment, Elena thought it was over, that he would send her away. And if that happened, she would lose her only chance. She clenched her hands tightly. "Please," she said. "I need this job." The man stared at her in silence, as if measuring something. Then he spoke again. "One more mistake, and you're done." Elena nodded quickly. Relief rushed through her. But it didn't last long. "And if anything goes missing," he continued, his eyes sharp, "you'll pay for it." Elena froze. Pay for it? She didn't even have anything left to lose. But the message was clear. This wasn't just hard work anymore. It was dangerous. She looked around. The people there avoided her eyes. No one was on her side. But walking away wasn't an option. Not anymore. Elena took a deep breath and picked up the next crate. Because now she understood one thing. She wasn't just working to save her father. She was risking everything. Elena forced herself to keep working, ignoring the pain, ignoring the fear. But the more she stayed, the more something didn't feel right. The crates were always sealed, tightly, carefully, and no one was allowed to ask questions. That alone was enough to make her uneasy. Then it happened. As she lifted another crate, she felt something shift inside. Not like tools, not like supplies. It sounded fragile. Elena froze for a second. Her grip tightened. What exactly was she carrying? She looked around. No one was paying attention. Slowly and carefully, she placed the crate down. Her heart was racing. She knew she shouldn't, but she needed to know. Elena moved her hand toward the edge of the crate, just enough to loosen it. Before she could open it, "Don't." The voice came from behind her. Elena turned quickly. The man was standing there, watching her. His expression was no longer calm. "You're not here to think," he said coldly. "You're here to work." Elena pulled her hand back immediately. I was just... Finish your job. No room for explanation. No room for mistakes. Elena nodded slowly. But inside, something had changed. This wasn't just dangerous work. It was something else. Something she didn't understand. And now, she wasn't sure if she should keep going. But stopping might be even worse. Elena tried to focus on her work, to ignore the questions in her mind, to pretend everything was normal. But it wasn't. The tension around her kept growing. The way people whispered, the way they avoided eye contact. It felt wrong. Then, near the end of the night, something happened. One of the workers stumbled while carrying a crate. It slipped from his hands and crashed to the ground. This time the sound was different. The crate broke open. Everyone froze. Elena's eyes widened. Inside were small glass containers, carefully packed, filled with something she couldn't recognize. But one thing was clear. This was not normal cargo. The man in charge rushed forward immediately. "Don't touch anything," he shouted. His voice was sharper than ever. The other workers stepped back quickly, fear visible on their faces. Elena didn't move. Her mind was racing. What was this? What kind of work had she gotten into? The man turned toward everyone. "You saw nothing," he said coldly. Then his eyes locked on Elena. For a moment, neither of them spoke. But the message was clear. She knew too much. Elena felt a chill run down her spine. This was no longer just about money. If she stayed, she could be in serious danger. But if she left, she might lose her only chance to save her father. And now, she had to make a choice. Elena couldn't stop thinking about what she had seen. The broken crate, the glass containers, and the way everyone reacted, like it was something they feared. She knew one thing for sure. This wasn't normal work. If she stayed, she could get hurt, or worse. But if she left, she would lose her only chance to save her father. Elena closed her eyes for a moment, trying to silence the fear. Then she made her choice. She stepped forward, back to the crates. She would stay. No matter what this was, she would see it through. The man in charge watched her closely, as if waiting for her to run. But she didn't. "Good," he said quietly. For a brief moment, everything felt calm again, until a loud noise broke the silence. Footsteps. Fast, urgent. Someone ran into the area, out of breath. "We've got a problem," he said. The man's expression immediately changed. "What happened?" "Someone reported us." The air turned cold. Elena felt her heart stop. "Reported?" Before she could react, the man turned sharply. "Move everything now." Panic spread through the workers. Everything became chaos. Elena stood frozen for a second, then realized something terrifying. If the authorities arrived, she would be caught in the middle of it. And this time, there might be no way out. Everything moved at once. Workers rushed in different directions. Crates were lifted, dragged, pushed aside. Orders were shouted over each other. Elena stood in the middle of it all, frozen for a second too long. "Move!" someone yelled, shoving past her. She snapped back to reality. Her hands reached for the nearest crate. If she ran now, she might escape. But if she left, she would lose everything she had worked for. Her father, the treatment, all of it. Elena clenched her jaw. She stayed. She lifted the crate and moved as fast as she could. The air was thick with panic. Every second felt heavier than the last. Then, a distant sound cut through the noise. Sirens, faint but getting closer. Elena's heart pounded harder. There was no more time. "Hurry up!" the man shouted. His calm was gone. For the first time, he looked afraid. Elena pushed herself beyond her limit. One crate, another. Her arms screamed in pain. But she didn't stop. Then suddenly, a hand grabbed her wrist. Hard. She turned sharply. It was one of the workers. His face pale. "You need to leave," he whispered urgently. Elena frowned. "What?" He glanced around, nervous. "If they catch you here, you won't just lose the job." He tightened his grip slightly. "You'll lose everything." Elena's breath caught. The sirens were closer now, louder, and suddenly, she realized this was her last chance to choose. Stay, or run. The sirens were getting louder, closer. There was no more time to think. Elena looked at the man holding her wrist, then at the crates around her. And finally, she thought about her father, lying weak, waiting for her. Her chest tightened. Then slowly, she pulled her hand free. "I'm not leaving," she said. The worker stared at her in disbelief. "Are you crazy?" Elena shook her head. "I've come too far." Without another word, she turned back and grabbed another crate. The risk was clear, but so was her choice. She would finish this, no matter what happened next. The sirens screamed through the night. Then, lights flashed in the distance. "They're here!" someone shouted. Panic exploded. People started running in every direction. Some tried to hide. Others dropped everything and fled. Elena stood there, breathing hard. She was too late. Strong light suddenly filled the area. "Don't move," a voice commanded. Everything froze. Elena's heart pounded as shadows surrounded them. For a brief second, she thought it was over, that she had lost everything. But then, something unexpected happened. The man in charge stepped forward quickly. "She's not part of this," he said firmly. Elena's eyes widened. "She's just a worker. She doesn't know anything." Silence fell for a moment. The light stayed on her. The decision was no longer in her hands. The light stayed on Elena. Blinding, unforgiving. For a moment no one spoke. Then one of the officers stepped closer, his eyes fixed on her. Is that true? He asked. Elena couldn't answer right away. Her heart was still racing. She looked at the man who had spoken for her. For the first time, his expression wasn't cold. It was calm. Almost certain. Elena swallowed. I didn't know, she said honestly. Silence followed. The officer studied her face, as if searching for a lie, but there was none. After a long pause, he stepped back. Let her go. The words felt unreal. Elena's knees almost gave out. Just like that. She was free. Days later, everything changed. The place was shut down. The people involved were gone. But before it all ended, Elena was given something. The payment she had earned. Maybe out of guilt. Maybe out of respect. She didn't ask why. She just took it and ran straight to the hospital. Time was almost gone. But this time, she had enough. The treatment was done. Hours felt like forever. Until finally, the doctor walked out. He's stable. Elena froze. Then her eyes filled with tears. For the first time since it all began, she could breathe. Weeks later, the village was quiet again. But something had changed. People looked at her differently now. Not with pity, not with doubt, but with respect. Elena didn't say much. She didn't need to, because she knew the truth. She had faced fear. She had risked everything. And she had won. Not for herself, but for the one person who meant everything to her.